Good evening. My name is Lauren Lyons. I'm a physical therapist at Yale-New Haven Children's Hospital. I'm part of the Yale Pediatric CF clinic team. And I want to talk a little bit today about high intensity interval training, otherwise known as HITT. That's how we'll refer to it for the rest of the presentation. And in particular, how HITT can help make exercise fit in a very busy life. And so just to start off real quickly, I love Calvin and Hobbes, and these guys are just showing a little example of how exercise can look in lots of different forms. My patients ask me all the time, what's the best exercise that they can do? And I always tell them it's the one that they enjoy doing and that they will do. And so just talk a little bit about my own personal exercise path. Professionally, like I said, I've been in inpatient pediatrics at Yale since 2005. And in 2009, I was invited to join the outpatient pediatric team. And starting in 2012, we were able to advocate for and train outpatient physical therapists to be part of our adult team as well. My personal background, I was a rower in college, an avid runner and hiker, and had a regular yoga practice, did a lot of strength training, but those three little people over on the side are much bigger now, but returning to work in particular after the birth of my third child, I had 3 under 5, all of a sudden I didn't find that I had enough time to do, to carve out my own time for exercise and fitness. And so high intensity interval training was something that I used personally as a survival technique to allow me to get little bits of exercise in on a realistic and regular basis. And that got me thinking that I can't be the only one that was having trouble fitting it in. So what is HITT, or high intensity interval training? Essentially, the concept is that it's short, repeated exercise sprints at moderate to maximal intensity, followed by short recovery bursts. So a typical ratio is 45 seconds of work, followed by 15 to 30 seconds of rest, but that can be adjusted as needed. And one way to adjust this as you would need is to use what we call the RPE scale, or the rate of perceived exertion. So your work level, you should feel like you're at a 7-8, so vigorous intensity, that little kind of working pretty hard emoji there, almost at the top. And that the rest level should be at a 4, sort of light intensity. You're still working a little bit, breathing a little bit hard, but you can catch your breath. And so if you need to have more time for rest to allow yourself to get to that RPE of 4, that's fine. So why does HITT work? The basic science behind how exercise works in general is that exercise uses ATP, which is an energy molecule. And the act of exercise causes a chemical cascade which helps to build mitochondria. And the severe stress from repeated sprints tax both the aerobic and the anaerobic system, so that even more mitochondria are produced in the muscles. An increase in the amount of mitochondria can help to increase cardiac efficiency, and that can lead to an increased amount of volume of your blood pumped, and also improving your VO2 max. And we know that VO2 max can be an independent survival predictor in many diseases, but certainly in cystic fibrosis. And HITT seems to use ATP at a higher rate than more duration type of slow and steady exercise. So it allows the body to stimulate training adaptations faster and burns more glucose. So the blood glucose levels can be decreased more significantly even with short periods of training, and it can aid in assisting with diabetic management, obviously in conjunction with your nutrition and endocrine team's advice. HITT also recruits what we call both type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers. Type 1 are your slow twitch fibers. They're your kind of endurance muscles. They are involved in posture, and they can also be very important in terms of your maintenance breathing. Your type 2 are your fast twitch fibers. These are your I need to run and catch the bus kind of fibers, and they're important for that short duration quick activity. And a more intense burst of exercise results also in larger lung volume exchange and can also enhance mucus mobilization. So we've all experienced this if we have a really hard workout or a little more intense of running, how that helps us to actually move mucus even better. Physical activity in general does increase respiratory rate and decrease mucus viscosity, also assisting with mucus clearance. So we all know that exercise is really good for us, but we get bored, all of us, even professionally as a physical therapist with a lot of exercise in my background. We run out of time. We all have concerns even prior to COVID about the gym and the cleanliness of the gym or catching things at the gym, but we also may not have the equipment we need at home. So I want to just do a quick review of what's out there in the literature in terms of the evidence for HITT, starting with healthy adults. And so there's lots of exercise out there, and a variety of studies have showed that HITT type of workouts are feasible and safe and results in improved aerobic conditioning, and can increase VO2 max, can increase endurance tolerance, increase the amount of mitochondria concentration, even in a short study that is only 2 weeks. There are some studies that have showed that HITT can result in improved pain tolerance, as well as, again, coming back to the idea of improving glucose control that can help especially in type 2 diabetes. In terms of what the literature says about adults with pulmonary disease, there's not quite as much literature out there, but there are a couple of studies in 2020 showing that 8 weeks of low volume HITT, so only 30 minutes a week of activity, was able to produce gains in aerobic and exercise capacity and physical function and was well tolerated. Gruber et al. Did a study a little bit longer ago in 2014 looking at 20 adults who were more involved with severe lung disease, who couldn't tolerate a standard exercise program, but were able to do a modified HITT version where there was work to rest of a 2-to-1 ratio, and they were able to improve their VO2 peak and increase their submaximal exercise. And it took significantly less time in the individual's day to have the HITT program than the more endurance type program. Since I'm a pediatric therapist, I'm always interested in what's out there in terms of literature for children and adolescents. There's a little bit less research in the pediatric populations, but there is a little bit in the healthy population showing that HITT can have greater improvements on cardiorespiratory fitness, and some suggestions that a 12-minute workout a couple of times a week could be adequate to produce excellent gains. And then the third study at the bottom looking at more competitive athletes, young competitive athletes, but that high intensity interval training produced some significant improvements among the competitive athletic population as well. So in terms of evidence for children with pulmonary conditions, unfortunately, it's crickets. There is not literature out there at the moment, so an area that hopefully we can continue to work on. Some basic principles of childhood activity we can draw from. We know that our toddlers and our young school-age children naturally play in bursts of 30 to 60 seconds with rest breaks in between. They get going doing something and then they stop and kind of play more quietly for short bits. And a lot of kind of cool novel exercise programs are based around a HITT concept and can be more motivating to older school age and adolescents. There's a lot of virtual stuff out there, particularly thank you to COVID. So what's all the hype about? HITT takes less time. The literature shows that it can improve VO2 max. And we know that in the CF population, that can be directly related to long-term survival rates. Studies show that it improves endurance and enhances muscle strength. There may be some improvements in terms of pain perception. And there's also a study that looked at cognitive function and depression and how short bursts of HITT activity could improve in those areas as well. In terms of things to be careful of or precautions, use that rate of perceived exertion to match work and rest so that you get the rest that you need before going back into a period of work. We do need to be careful. Anyone who has been diagnosed with osteopenia or osteoporosis needs to be very careful about their form when they're doing their exercises. And some of the things that we need to think about is making sure that we're supporting our pelvic floor. If that's something that's an unfamiliar topic to you, please talk to your clinic PT. There's lots of specific exercises and techniques that can be very helpful, but you want to talk to someone one-on-one to get those suggestions. Maintaining a neutral spine and pairing your breathing with exercise for improved control can be really helpful. And so the importance of getting some coaching, working with your clinic PT, working with a trainer at the gym to really get some feedback, make sure your form is correct and the exercises that you're picking are working for you is really important. If HITT is something you're looking at incorporating and you want to sort of know where to begin, a goal program would be 30 to 45 seconds of activity with 15 to 30 seconds of rest. And again, looking at that RPE of 7 to 8 for your work and about 4 for your rest. But remembering that work to rest ratio can be adjusted as needed. You certainly want to allow extra rest breaks if you need to get yourself where you need to be before you start your next burst. And absolutely, if you feel the need to clear, you definitely need to allow extra time for that. And at the end, take advantage of all of the benefits of the exercise that you've done and enhancing mucociliary clearance by doing some active clearance at the end, either some huff cough, some oscillatory pep, some active cycle of breathing or autogenic drainage, just something quick to clear what you have likely been able to move around. And then just be aware that not all types of exercises will get the same exertion at the same amount of time. So something like jumping jacks may get you more breathless than something like squats. So just thinking about that a little bit. How to design your own program. You want to do a little bit of something fun to warm up for 3 to 5 minutes. And then you want to pick 6 to 10 interval exercises. And you're going to do your work to rest ratios and then finish with some gentle stretching. And again, that importance of doing your active clearance. Overall, you should be able to complete the whole thing in 15 to 20 minutes total. But of course, you can add, repeat, or drop off some if you need to. I try to encourage people to have a balance of exercises that focus on the upper body, the lower body, and the core. And I think from an airway clearance perspective, it's always helpful if your last exercise can be something that incorporates some jumping aspect, because that tends to produce the maximal effort in terms of enhancing sputum mobilization. You truly don't need any equipment. You can do lots of great HITT programs with absolutely nothing but your own body weight. That being said, if you have weights, if you have resistance bands, then that opens all other kinds of doors if you want to add. So just some sample types of exercises, starting with sort of the young school age, things like push-ups off the wall and planks off the wall. Things like lunges or lunges where you're kind of walking across the room, squats or squats off the wall, monster walks where you're in a squat position and sort of walking sideways, frog hopping, just like it sounds, inchworm walking, where they put their hands on the floor and walk their hands out and then their feet to their hands, bridges, wheelbarrow walking if you have someone that can hold on to the feet, going from standing down into half kneeling and then back up into standing, tossing a ball in kneeling or half kneeling, bear walking, so on hands and feet and sort of walking yourself across the room. Some activities you can do on hands and knees, a fire hydrant where you're bringing one hip up into the side, A donkey kick, where you're kicking the leg back. Superman, where you're laying on the floor and bringing your arms up straight in front of you and your legs up behind you. Skipping, galloping, skipping with high knees, jumping jacks, squat jumps are just a few examples. Again, these are all ones that don't require any equipment. And the exercises that are starred are ones that you'd want to avoid if you had a pick or a midline in place. And again, these are all tested by my 5-year-old at the time, even in a dress. Adolescents and adults, you can get even a little bit more creative. Planks and push-ups can be off the floor or off the wall. You can do dips. You can do plank holds either on the forearm or the extended arm. You can plank with alternating arm rotation. Again, you can do that off the floor or off the wall. Squats, you can add squatting on one leg. You can add to lunges what I call around the world. So lunge to the front, lunge at about 2 o'clock on the clock, 3 o'clock, back around 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, all the way around. Lunges to the side. You can add kicks to your squat. So squat to a kick in front or squat to a kick on the side. You can do side lying with a leg lift or running in place. If you have a step, you can do a step up. On hands and knees, you can do some of the same ones as the younger kids, but you can also add opposite arm and leg lift. You can add a kick out to your bridge. For continued core ideas, you can do bridges with one leg or dead bugs, which is where you're laying on your back and you're alternating, bringing arm and leg together across your body. And then final interval, those are those ones I think really enhance sputum clearance. Jumping jacks, high knee skips, burpees, jump squats, anything that gets you really jumping can be helpful there. So what about if you hate exercising inside? What can you do there that can still give you some sense of the HITT concept? If you like to walk or hike, just think about picking up your intensity for a minute, power walking or power hiking, and then follow that up with a minute or two at your base pace. Same thing with biking or swimming. And if you do any of these activities with music, you can set up there's free apps that will do intervals of music. So like your music can change to tell you it's time, or you can set yourself a timer. Hilly courses for walking, hiking, biking, any of those automatically builds in intervals. That's another way to get a little of the HITT concept if you are not interested in being indoors doing exercise. And again, we already talked about active clearance afterwards is so key. And you're already going to be primed for maximum clearance because of your increased respiratory rate and the mucus being a little bit thinner. So take advantage of that and do something quick and easy to clear. There are tons of apps out there. I listed a few here that I have used and liked. These are all free, so some of them may have some pay for features, but the bones of the apps are free. 7 is the one of the initial apps that was based off the New York Times 7-minute workout model. J&J, Johnson & Johnson, has a official 7-minute workout that is also really excellent and has lots of ways you can adjust it. But then there's a couple of others on there as well. And then I included some apps that work for timers. If you just want an app to do the timer and you're going to come up with your own exercises, are on there. It's always a balancing act. We want to get some exercise in there to try to continue to build our strength, to enhance our posture, to assist with sputum clearance. We know there's lots of other things that need to get done in your day too, and treatments take a lot of time. So I'm hoping that the HITT concept might be something that would work for you to get a little bit of exercise in a little less time. And then there's a whole bunch of our references there. Again, I work for Yale-New Haven Children's Hospital. I'm happy to be contacted with any questions related to this presentation. My email is Lauren, LAUREN, .Lyons, LYONS, @YNHH.org. lauren.lyons@ynhh.org. And again, I'd encourage you to really talk with your clinic team, your clinic PT about HITT exercise and whether that's something that might be right for you, and whether you can get a little guidance to getting the best exercise program started. Be well and have a great evening.